Hello, my name is Cheryl,
And I'm Michelle.
and we're Boone and Gomes Group. And today we are going to present a webinar, Help for Homeowners, and it's part of an educational series. The title of this particular one is Should I Stay or Should I Go? Yes, it is a good question. We hope to answer it. A clear framework for one of the most decisions that important decisions you will need to make, and that's whether you want to sell your property. So let's begin. Should I stay or should I go? There is a right decision, and there is what is probably the wrong decision. So, what if the biggest real estate mistake is not selling and isn't staying, but making the wrong decision between the two? What if people don't realize that they're making the wrong decision just by guessing?
So if you could sell your home today for a great price, would you? So let's make this real.
Yep.
So the tale from the trenches. I had a client a few years ago that was so excited. They were going to sell. They were going to move out of state. So they had this whole plan ready in their head that they were going to do. And so they asked me, and I had sold them the home. And when I went to sit down with them, they already had their plan. And I was so convinced that they
working through.
They thought of everything, right? But they really needed me to guide them. And so, hindsight, fast forward, they started looking with another realtor in another state.
One thing though. So in that situation, where, I think it's case by case, but where is that balance, right? You want to respect what that family or that individual has already worked out. You think they've worked out. We do try to get the why and the how. But if it seems like it's already a plan that they want us to bless, right?
And it seemed like a great plan. But maybe we could have had some questions for them. And sometimes you don't know the people as well as you think.
Yeah.
It's 10 years since they had purchased that home.
Yeah.
And so
and their tolerance for risk may have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. And they weren't nervous about things and everything went fine the first time. So why
question it?
Yeah. Concerned.
Yeah.
Fast forward, they start looking with the other agent in the other state. And they're all still gung-ho.
Ooh, interesting thing though. Being out of state, also having to work with another agent, that's also a disconnect, right? Because they're used to being held by you.
Right.
So that's a whole nother layer.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. Sorry, go ahead.
But once they get out into the actual market and they rushed to get their home all ready to put on the market, and it's looking better than it's ever looked.
Yeah.
They've done stuff to the home that they just, didn't even have their eyes on after getting, recommendations and staging and everything. Every closet's perfect and everything's in great shape, packed up so nice and neatly. And so that everything seemed like they were completely ready. But we had an open house. They went out for the day, to go and look at new properties, and everything seemed fine. Didn't hear much. We had over 40 people at the open house.
Wow.
And it was the time where everybody came to one listing, and that was, really exciting. So get like multiple offers the very first day.
Yeah.
And they had to, decide or think about, we had an open house scheduled for the next day as well. And that made everything change.
What happened?
They were like, I don't think everybody wants our house. And what if we can't get as good as we have now?
Right.
In the new home.
Right.
And so
did they fall apart?
Fell apart. And they, with all these offers in hand and another open house, the husband calls and says, my wife's on the floor crying. And oh my gosh, that broke my heart. I'm like, there's nothing in the world that, can't be undone at this time.
Yeah.
You haven't gotten into a contract yet.
Right.
So this is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's good that it happened now.
Right.
And although, we've, gone through a lot to get here,
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. And so we did cancel the open house, and we had to, notify all the people that put their offers in and the agents that.
So they were so happy with you.
I'm sure they were just really happy with me. But, at the end of the day, we want to do what's right for
Sure.
the client. And
Yeah.
having those very early on hard, have those hard conversations early. And we're there to put all the options out there.
Mhm.
So that wasn't the only option.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk more.
Yeah, so good.
about
So
those
good.
things.
And I know you always have those questions about the whys and the hows. And just there's so many layers to that where it sort of went off the rails, but you just never know. And so that's where we're headed. How do we prevent those preventable heartaches?
Yeah.
So most homeowners, have options, right? They're not stuck financially. They're stuck strategically. And it's just they don't know if it's the right time, if it costs more to stay or to go, if moving is going to increase risk they cannot tolerate. We just saw there. And they don't have a framework for making a decision. So everything we do at BGG is rooted in framework, and that's how we guide people because we know what works and we stick with it. So we're going to give you a framework to understand this decision process. So BGG framework, 4 parts. We're going to focus, basically on the first 3, and it's reveal, reframe, reposition, and getting results. So reveal, pretty self-evident, right? So when we reveal, we're just, seeing what's true. Yeah, seeing what's true. We're looking at numbers, equity, the lifestyle, desired lifestyle, current lifestyle. We're looking at the next thing is reframe. And that's essentially just thinking differently now that we see all the facts in front of us. And so we're trying to discern in that step how much of this process is based in fear and how much is it based in clear thinking. So it's fear versus clarity. And then the third is repositioning, and that's the building of the plan.
Yeah, I love the plan.
You do. You're a planner.
And I have a plan.
Yeah. So that's the actual strategy, things like the timing and the options. And then finally, that will lead to some result, right? That's either it's moving forward in some sort of confidence. A decision is cutting off the other options, right? So to stay or to go, and doing that with confidence and executing with a sense of peace. And so I think peace is above all else, ensuring that whatever decision is arrived at is based in peace. So we want to provide the right insight, the right strategy, and the right move. So reveal, reframe, reposition, and results. Yes. So before we go any deeper into answering the question, should I stay or should I go? And we can't answer that for others, but we can provide that framework. Let's walk about and talk out how we would get through that framework. Okay. So we talked a little bit about the reveal. So that's when you would be sitting down with us, and we have a lot of questions, and it might seem like overkill, but it's not, because in that discovery period, we are really trying to get all the facts out, get what's sort of behind the facts, and then we'll be able to move to the next, which is reframing and seeing, okay, here's spelled out on paper, and we do have, a guide to work through. We also do pen and paper with folks, and spreadsheets, etc. Any tool that's going to help you see it clearly is what we are willing to do. But when it's spelled out in a way that makes sense, we're discerning what is the fear and the facts and teasing out what's, based in sort of um, socio-political climate. If you're feeling a sense of urgency that may be inflated, there may be, misinformation. You've got to do it now because the interest rates are going to change next month. Says who?
Right.
Let's tease out the facts. Let's make sure that we are basing things in reality and not in pure emotion. And we're working that out through strategy and getting other professionals involved, right? It could be a lender, an attorney. Things are a little more complicated. So to making sure that we're not just, chasing fear. Most bad decisions come right out of unclear thinking.
Right. So true.
And if you've ever had a bad haircut,
We've all had one of those.
I mean, you might be saying right now, are you unclear, Cheryl? Is that what led to this?
How clear are you?
How clear are you? So, it's not just in real estate, right? So, the same, I have frameworks for every aspect of my life, helping people with making decisions in all areas. But when we're looking at this, in many things, even the small things, we overthink and we clutter ourselves. And I'm always talking about information saturation, right? At the touch of any technology, you can find a lot of information. And sometimes that's helpful. We do want to make sure we're basing things in facts, but social media doesn't help, the news media in general. So not overthinking in a negative spinning way, but we tend to just fail when there's information overload and our thinking becomes circular.
So true.
So we don't usually fail from, taking risks. It's just making them when our mind is cluttered and unclear. So the reframe is, are you thinking about this clearly?
Right.
Not, my uncle Joe said that now's the time, we got to do it now. And then it creates that FOMO that you're going to miss out on a market. That's not always true. And I think people will be surprised to hear when they meet with us. Sometimes our recommendation isn't to list with us.
Talked ourselves out of it.
We have talked ourselves out of it.
It just doesn't fit together.
Mm-hmm. But I would hope that, that's something that will come back around, that they will know that because there will be a when, either for them or somebody they love or know, that they know that they would not be advised based on our needs. It would be theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sometimes I think we've had to say, have you looked at it in this perspective?
Mm-hmm.
And we have somebody right now that we're working with, and they had their plan, and we had to say, okay, let's take a step back, and let's see how that actually works on paper.
Right.
And it really wasn't working. So.
Yeah. And so maybe not a no, but it's a not yet.
Right.
We'll talk a little bit about that. So we really seek to understand what's influencing your thinking of fear, opportunity, uncertainty, and I say all the time, my work as a counselor pays off in every realm of my life. But we as realtors, no, we are not attorneys and we are not lenders and we are not your therapist. But guess what?
A lot of it is counsel.
A lot of it is counsel. Advising well. So trying to figure out some of those motivations and making sure you're thinking clearly. So the third one's reposition. So in this one, we're looking at, in a perfect world, what is the plan? We've looked at the facts, we've looked at the underlying motivation, and looking with it all spelled out in front of us, in a perfect world, would it be stay and improve? Right? So if you're leaving because I hate my house, and most people would say, okay, get that house on the market, take the listing. But if we truly don't feel like there's a viable way forward for them to get them out of that house. It might be, helping them to be connected to the people who can help them improve their home and make it livable for them and their family.
Get the house ready.
Right.
It might not be now, but
Right. So they'll stay and improve, make it livable for themselves now, but they're also getting it ready to go on market when they are able. So the others, obvious would be sell and move. And then the other is, as we were talking about, stay and wait strategically with those improvements, building out a plan, building more equity, and seeing a way forward. Yet, when people come and are just kicking this idea around because they get a mailer from a random realtor that their house is worth $5 zillion, and they're like, I should sell my house. Then they want to talk about it and dream about it, and then they just make themselves more frustrated. I'd rather just help them put it to rest, right? It may not be the right time, but doing nothing is still a decision.
Yeah. Deal with the facts.
Yeah.
First.
So the last phase of the framework is moving to some sort of result. And for some people that is moving, and we want it to be the right move, the right way. So what does the right move look like? So some things to consider is that it's financially sound, the lifestyle is aligned, right? So if it is, I could get $1 zillion from my house and I want to downsize, are you ready to give up space? Some yard, sometimes it's yard space, sometimes it's amenities, sometimes it's location. So is this aligned with your lifestyle?
Yeah. What can they purchase with what they're getting from their home, their current home?
Yeah. And if it's not going to align with your lifestyle, and it's just to capitalize on it being a seller's market, that may not be the best choice. So we want to make sure that it's a confident decision. So the goal isn't just to move people, it's to move well, right?
Right.
So the whole thing that prompted the idea for the webinar is the idea of people feeling stuck.
Yeah.
And beyond there being lower inventory, because that's a market thing that's outside of us. There's external and internal things, but that feeling of being stuck, it's not just a market problem. It's a clarity problem, and it's related to the distortion of reality based on fear. So that's something to consider. Uncertainty obviously delays action and just gets them in a cycle of just thinking about, and feeling bad that they're not taking action. And that's not what we want. And a lack of strategy creates decision paralysis.
Yeah.
So when clarity is missing, even good opportunities feel risky, and the decision feels safe, so they stay stuck, but it's often the most expensive choice for them. So we need to determine what to actually do in those cases.
So we're looking at a real truth shift, and clarity doesn't come usually from waiting. It comes from a really good plan.
Yeah.
So
true.
So even when homeowners, have strong equity and they are, essentially ready for a change, ready for all that the plan coming, they still feel stuck because they need somebody to, walk them through this. So they don't need more information really, because we do have all the information at our fingertips all the time. But which things do we really, use or need the most? We need somebody to sit with us and say, well, what do I do first?
That's huge, right? So I think that information saturation is like you can read a lot about selling your property and research it, but the actual knowing of the current local market and the situation and having somebody piece that together strategically on what comes first.
Talking all of those things out. They need a really good framework.
So true. So the three biggest mistakes that we're seeing Rhode Island sellers make is selling without a plan, as you highlighted in your story,
Yeah.
your experience with those sellers. They can rush in and focus on getting the listing, just almost like to rip off the Band-Aid. Like, I've been thinking about, and then, okay, pull the trigger. And it's an immediate relief because they've moved on something, but they move before really understanding their next move, as we saw.
Yeah. They're all excited. And then they're like, oh no.
What did I do?
What are we doing? Why are we doing this? This is stressful.
We always talk about buyer's remorse when somebody buys a car or anything, right? But their seller's remorse is for real. They also, the mistake that's also hard to watch is people waiting for perfect timing, delaying decisions, hoping for certainty. And certainty never comes. Think about that though. Action proceeds. So you do your reveal, your reposition, your reframing, all those things. You get your strategy, you get your framework, you've done your due diligence, everything's in line, you talk to a professional. There's still going to be some level of uncertainty. We don't know, and that's why we walk by faith, not by sight, but with discernment and clarity. So I think that waiting for the perfect time, waiting for that perfect, I know without a doubt, hold your breath.
Yeah. Well, some people need that clarity of where am I going to go and how does that look? You know,
Right.
I got to buy before I sell. If you can do that, great. You know,
So
and that's another thing we'll talk about.
Yeah. The other thing is underestimating your options, right? So some people just think because this is how they did it in 2004, you know, they saved up, they had their 20%, they had it this way and then this, so, and they can't see a way forward because they're not seeing all the options. So how they purchased or sold property in the past may be slightly different. So we want to show people that there's more options than they're thinking of. So bottom line, sellers don't get stuck because of just the market. They get stuck because they don't have the strategy.
So before you consider any move, do you know your home's value? It should be within 5%.
You should know it, right?
You should know. And so do you know how much equity that you actually have? So that's where a professional comes in and says, okay, well, we have all the tools. You can look on Zillow and you can look on Rhode Island Living, but can you do what a professional does to really look at the details and have that insight? Because your professional is doing this every day.
Yes.
And homeowners and buyers are not.
Yeah.
And you have your job or whatever. So those are some things that
I would say a little bit of information is dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I wouldn't do surgery on myself.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't, you know, do my own, I wouldn't write my own legal contracts like a will, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't also just, oh, well, my neighbor's house went for that, or I saw on Zillow. It's so much more than that. And
I always say I'm not an attorney and I'm not a home inspector. I'm not your tax advisor. Those are, you know, those questions are for the professional.
Right.
And I can know just enough to be really dangerous. And so we always are always advising to get advice from those professionals.
So there's many transition paths, but here's 3 that we're going to spell out, right? Option 1 is pretty straightforward. You sell, you buy. Sell your current home and purchase your next. That's best for people who want simplicity and minimal financial overlap. Option 2, buy, sell. You secure your next home first, okay? Then sell. That's best for those who need certainty before making the next move. Now, there's certain people who can do that, and they do it in a number of different ways. We cannot get into all of those caveats and pathways, but it can be done, and that's certainly an option. And option 3 is stay and strategically prepare, remain in place while creating and building an intentional plan. That's for those who are not fully ready, but it might be something 6 months from now. So they're already going to get their financial house in order, their physical house in order. They're going to get their pre-qualification. They're going to consider which pathway they would exit their current home. And so building out those, instead of a realtor saying, okay, you call this in, So this is what your house is worth. Sign this.
Yeah, no, Jen, it's not realistic to think to do that.
So the bottom line is not right. There's not one right way. It's really based on individual and their needs, but there is a best strategy for each of us. I want you to understand, these three paths and the others. There are others. The conversation shifts from should I move or what's the smartest way for me to move forward.
Right.
So what we did was, aside from thinking this through in response to that response we're getting from questions and queries about like, what do I do when I feel stuck? Besides doing this, we did create an actual guide, and that's something that's available. It is free to all our clients, and you can just go to Bruning Gomes Group, bgg.com, and just submit your email, and we will send that to you for free, of course. And then if you did want to reach out to us, then we could take it a step further. You can scan the QR code there, or you could just go right to the website. The goal isn't just to move people, it's to move them, the right way, so it's the right move for them. So, like I said, we have the guide. I was going to take people through page by page, but I'd rather people just have it in front of them and dive in. There's a checklist. I think the checklist is probably my favorite part of it because it's really a workbook. And so once you have all that information, you see it spelled out in black and white. It's you're getting through that first part of the framework, the revealing, the details, the info.
You'll be even more ready.
Exactly.
To have a discussion.
Yes. So if you know someone who is considering a move, I encourage you to share this with them. If they'd like to reach out to us directly, they could reach out through our website, or you could contact us through our broker, which is Coldwell Banker in East Greenwich. But we'd really appreciate if you visit the website. There's lots of great tools on there. We always offer free guides. There's a newsletter, different assets we're trying to provide to our clients so that they have great information and the right guidance, and just a way to access that for free, because a well-educated seller is what and buyer is what we're seeking.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think we covered a lot.
I think we covered a lot.
So keep it simple.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So anyways, once again, just to bring it back, we're Bruning Gomes Group, rooted in values
and refined in service.
And our goal isn't just to get you to move, it's to get you to make the right move for you. Thanks so much for joining. Take good care.
Take care.